Hello, ladies with tradies. Welcome to another podcast episode. I have the beautiful Helen Kay from Rise Legal with me today. How are you going, Helen?
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Kay. It's wonderful to be here.
Thanks so much. And Helen is a great trusted advisor of ladies with tradies. We've been very lucky to not only work with her personally on our own legal matters at Ladies with Tradies. She's been a phenomenal support to our clients all across Australia, which has been really fantastic in all things tradie business and legal, whether it be terms and conditions, trademarking, you name it. There's a whole gamut of things that Helen can do to support your business. So be sure to hit her up for her amazing services. And you're going to want to do that even more so after today's conversation. So Helen's here to talk to us today about the 5 mistakes that tradie businesses make from a legal perspective and how to prevent these. So really excited to hear what you've got to share with us and all your amazing wisdom, Helen. Over to you.
Thank you. Okay, typical lawyer, Kate. I'm going to start with a quick legal disclaimer and just say that everything that I'm talking about in this podcast is very general in nature. And because there's no one size fits all and every situation is unique, you really do need to take individual legal advice on your own circumstances, which of course, happy to do. I'll be talking about the 5 mistakes business owners make that can derail their business and what to do to prevent it. So you and I have discussed many, many times that as commercial lawyers, we see the same mistakes made by trade business owners time and time again. And most, if not all of those, are easily avoidable had those business owners been proactive about their business legals. Obviously it disappoints me because, there's 2 ways to do things. You either do something proactively, and that's usually more cost effective and makes you feel more confident, or you react to something, a really nasty thing that happens in your business. And then for the first time, you go and see a lawyer who says, you should have had this in place, you should have had this. And then often, they're dealing with an issue as well as putting the protections in place that they should have had in the first place. Well, I actually don't want that to ever happen to any of my clients. I'm like Mother Duck. So just sort of wrap them in that bubble wrap.
And it's so interesting, and why we always are referring clients out, because tradie businesses, for whatever reason, they don't do this too well. And they might have a little thing on the bottom of their quote or their invoice here or there, but that's about as far as they go trying to protect their businesses. And we as business coaches go, oh my goodness, I feel like you're being really unsafe here. Can you please go and talk to Helen so she can get you sorted out? So you're right. It's that proactive stuff. And I love what you said there about it's more cost effective to be proactive. Yes, it is. So too many people will go, oh, I don't want to front up the funds to get this thing done. Don't be an idiot. Being proactive is much more cost effective every single day of the week in all facets of business, especially from a legal perspective. So thank you for saying that, because it's the thing that we harp on about all the time is get it in, because you don't want to have to backpedal and pay and suffer the consequences for not doing it now. So spot on, mate. Love it.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So I just sort of listed out over the last few weeks the sort of common things that are coming back to us from our tradie clients and from new inquiries we're getting from tradies. And really just sort of listed down to the ones that I thought would be most relevant to your listeners. So the first one, which is usually the most exciting, is the fact that business owners, we find, are not protecting their intellectual property. So their intellectual property mainly for a trade business would be their business name or their logo. So that's actually, registering a trademark is actually the only way to really thoroughly protect your intellectual property and stop somebody else using it. A lot of people don't know that. When you hang out in these Facebook groups and stuff like I do, and you'll see time and time again, I'm sure you've seen it, Kate, where someone said, oh, I've just found out someone's using my business name, and someone else comes on and goes, get lawyered up, send a cease and desist. And then I'll kind of come on and go, you can only send a cease and desist if you have a registered trademark. Sorry to throw that in there. And then usually that generates quite a lot of activity of people ringing me saying, I want to talk to you about trademarks. So, and when people start a business, They get very excited about what business name they're going to use. Obviously, and you probably spend quite a few sessions with people on, what's the best business name. Yeah. And there's lots of things to think about from a marketing perspective, etc. But from a legal perspective, there's really 3 things to think about with your business name. 1, is it available to buy from ASIC? Yeah. If it's gone, it's gone. Is it available? Is the domain name available? If that's gone, there's not much you can do. And then the last thing, which people often overlook, is it trademarkable? So can I actually, once I've done all this and got all this branding done and it's on my website and I've wrapped my vehicle in it, can I actually trademark it? So, and the reason for that is, like I say, it's the only way to actually stop somebody else using it. So, and people say to me, well, what's the point in registering a trademark? Is anyone going to actually use it? Well, there's 2 reasons that I tell them. One is, if you're doing this really great work for clients and you're building up this great reputation, you don't want someone else sneaking in, setting up a Facebook page or another website or something that drives all that traffic over to them instead of to you. They're basically trading on your goodwill by doing something deceptively similar. That happens all the time. You'd be really surprised.
I have, and I've seen it spoken about in those groups before, where people are like, oh my goodness, somebody else is using our name and they're pretty much pinching our work.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that side of it, but then there's the other side, the mirror image to that, which is you don't want to be associated with a bad business. So somebody sets up and calls themselves something so similar. Again, I use the term deceptively similar because that's the terminology in the Trademarks Act. You don't want to be associated with that business. Imagine if someone goes out and does some really poor workmanship, is taking deposits and not turning up, and then they Google and they find you and leave you the Google review. Really hard to get those reviews down. We've been speaking to somebody about that this morning. It's better if that doesn't happen in the first place. So getting a really good trademark, getting a really good business name that's unique, and then trademarking it is the best form of protection you can get for your intellectual property. And it's actually really easy. Again, there's some confusion with patents and trademarks. It's relatively easy to do. We use a fast track system called TM Head Start, which gives an answer within 5 business days as to whether the examiner is likely to accept the full application. And those fees payable to IP Australia are really affordable. These are the registration fees. At the point of us having this discussion, they're $330 per trademark per class for 10 years, $33 a year, basically in registration fees. Obviously, you'll have legal fees if you engaged lawyers, which is definitely recommendable because there's lots of facets to trademarking, but it's actually a really easy process. So if you don't know anything about it, I would really recommend that you jump on and have a chat with a trademark lawyer or a commercial lawyer who does trademarking like ourselves.
And I can speak from personal experience on this, getting the Ladies with Tradies IP stuff done through you, Helen, and it was really easy. And you guys really made it a simple process to follow. And the thing that really struck me about that process was how much bigger it was than a name. And so the way that you walked our business like you would any business through the elements of trademarking and the intellectual property side of things, even so far as, what is your tagline and what are some of the really, really pronounced languaging, I suppose, that perhaps only your business uses that's unique to you that you want to protect at the same time. So it's so much bigger than just the name. And that's where, yes, you can go and you can do a few bits and pieces on your own, but if I had tried to do that, there's no way I would have the level of protection for my business that I have now. So everybody's looking for shortcuts out there, guys. Please don't shortcut. Pay a professional to get this stuff sorted for you so that you know. And we did discover that there were some other businesses out there similar to ours, and so it was such a relief to know that we were protected very quickly and very soon after. So, they do a lot of work on the stuff that really matters on this trademarking IP thing. So I'm very grateful for that, Helen. But yeah, from a personal perspective, it is really easy, but you do get a lot of value for the investment on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's just knowing that you can stop somebody else from doing something naughty using your business name is really great. And you can use the symbols, warning to the world, use the symbol once you've got a registered trademark, the R in a circle, and that's like, back off, it's mine.
Go away.
Okay, so that's just one of the tips. The next mistake that we see time and time again is the number of tradies that are actually going out and doing work without contracts in place. So this is probably the biggest one. Really, you can't leave it to chance and trust that everyone in business will pay you. And I speak to people who maybe inherited businesses off father-in-laws and other family members who've sort of said, no, we've always done it on handshakes. Or the world has changed very rapidly. And you really do need to have the law on your side. And to do that, you're going to need a contract with your client. So the terminology that we use most readily is terms and conditions. So you get legal terms and conditions drawn up for your business, and you attach those to your quote. Now, together, once accepted by the client, that is your contract at law. So it's we've got business owners who are owed considerable amounts of money coming to us, new clients, thank goodness, not anybody in our little protective bubble. They'll come to us and say if we can help them out. And invariably I'll say, can you send me the quotes and your terms and conditions? And they'll always say they don't have any terms of trade or terms and conditions, which is scary. So obviously the next thing we do is say, well, we need to address that as well as looking at trying to chase this debt for you. Because the easiest way to get paid is making sure that you've got those business terms and conditions attached to your quotes. And then a lot of people do say to us, oh, we have terms and conditions, and we say, well, just flick them over, especially if they've come through, ladies with tradies, and we'll just say to them, let's have a look at them then. And we'll have a look. And sometimes they can be really scarce. They can just be payment terms, really, especially if credit control agencies have prepared them, because all they're concerned about is their ability to collect their own costs as debt collectors. So, and that's usually those sort of 8 bullet points about what happens if you're late paying. But, there's so much more to terms and conditions than just, your rights on late payment, because you've got to build it. And this is why it's going to be built for your business, because we've got to talk about, what refunds are you willing to give, in excess of what you have to do by law? What's your cancellation policy? What deposits do you take? What termination provisions do you want in there? For example, if someone's late paying you, maybe on another job, if you're doing multiple jobs, do you want to be able to terminate or suspend work on other jobs? The biggest thing, though, the one that I get the most excited about, biggest protection you can have is those disclaimers and limits of liability. So obviously under all the relevant laws for your industry and under Australian consumer laws, there's only you do have laws behind you that you can't contract out of. But outside of that, don't leave yourself open to additional liability that you don't have to take on board. So, we'll talk to our clients. We have really great discussions with them about things that have happened on jobs that might have gone wrong, things that they worry about. And there's always things that are really relevant to their industry. And this is why when people phone me and say, can I not just use a template? I'll say to them, well, if you can find a template, Kate, for an electrical contractor who does work for strata managers, building owners and commercial, and also works across the borders of, Queensland and New South Wales. If you can find a template that covers all of that, buy it and I'll buy it off you. Because I'd love to see it, because other than that, we build that. So we would build in the relevant disclaimers for your industry, for your state, and for your business, how you actually do things on the ground. Yeah,
again, the shortcut thing, and we see that often in the groups that we're in. Anybody got a template for this? Anybody? And it just makes me feel sick all the time, thinking you're going to go out there and, like you're saying, that example that's very that is a realistic example of what we come across from a business perspective is, it's not a one size fits all. Terms and conditions are not. So if you're thinking about engaging an organization that says, here's a template and it's around your legal terms and conditions and contracts, be a bit mindful and a bit careful, because likelihood is you're not going to be as protected as you need to be.
If at all.
If at all.
If at all. Or we could just leave it so you're not going to be protected. Full stop.
Full stop.
It will have some payment provisions in, I suspect, but the rest of it will just be, it'll suit 0.001% of the people who buy it. Which is a shame. But if anyone wants some more information, we've basically on everything that I'm talking about today, there'll be a corresponding article on our website. In particular, in this, talking about terms and conditions, we do have a free guide on how to get paid. If you head over to riselegal.com.au, I'm sure we'll have links and everything at the end, but that's got way more information than, is worth talking about on this podcast.
Beautiful. Thanks, Helen. That'll be good.
That's all right. Okay, so we've got...
What are we up to? Number 3.
Okay, we're up to number 3 now. So number 3, the third mistake we see people make, and you'll see this as well, is trust. They trust the people who work for them too much. So regardless, family member or friend, whatever. And sometimes you do need extra help in your business. We appreciate that. And, you might not be in a position where you want to take on employees, but when that happens, you tend to reach out to people to help you out. Well, that's all well until something goes wrong. And you guessed it, they've got no written agreement in place. So this person who's come on to help you out of a pickle might actually cause a lot more pickles. And a written agreement could have helped with that. So if you're a business owner who engages subcontractor agreements, you do need a well-drafted subcontractor agreement in place. So because everything's fine until it's not, basically. Contractors really should be treated in the same way as employees. You wouldn't even think about taking somebody on as an employee and not having an employment contract. Well, you shouldn't anyway. Contractors even more so, because they're not on your payroll and they're not covered by Fair Work and things like that. So people say to me, why do I need a subcontractor? Everything's fine. He comes on, he does the job, he invoices me, I pay him, there's never been any trouble. Well, there could be. And it's really, with workplace health and safety changing all the time and putting more and more onus on the business owner, be really careful that you've got your subcontractors' workplace health and safety obligations set out in a contract between the two of you. Make it clear what you're doing, what they're doing, what they're bringing to site, what equipment they're bringing, what they're using of yours. And then other things like, restraints of trade. So often we get people calling us to say that they have a subcontractor who's been undercutting them, calling the clients and undercutting the quotes, or is actually, even more harmful to the business, stealing the clients or stealing the employees, because they're on the ground with them. So if you've got like a senior person who's on the ground with some juniors, you've paid to train them up, and then they basically steal them across to their own business. With a written agreement, they would be in breach of that. They'd be in breach of a restraint of trade, which would again, as lawyers, we would then be able to do something about it.
Yeah, perfect. And that again is one of those, the trust you have. You think, oh no, surely that somebody's not going to do that. But again, times have changed. Things are different.
Things are different. I don't know about you, Kate, but do you think people are looking out for themselves a little bit more than they did perhaps pre-COVID?
Yes, I do. I do think that people. Certainly I've noticed a lot in metropolitan region, like areas specifically, it's become much more dog eat dog, for want of a better description, in the metro areas, because it's almost like everybody's come back out of the woodwork now and wanting and thought about or had time to think about, well, could I do this on my own? Or there's a plethora of work out there. Why don't I just go and give it a crack? And that is introducing more challenge with that undercutting thing that you talked about, which is a bit of a shame. And I think that the sad thing we're going to see very soon, Helen, and why all these things you're talking about are so important, is that a lot of organisations are going to go bust because of shonky contracts, because of lack of terms and conditions. I actually have some serious concerns over the next 12 months about what's going to happen in trades industry for all of the things that you're describing right now.
Yeah, same. I actually predicted it would happen a lot earlier.
Okay.
Once they unfroze the insolvency laws last year, I was predicting sort of come February, March 21, we were going to see these insolvencies, and these insolvencies were going to ripple throughout, particularly the building trades. It hasn't happened. There's a number of reasons for that, probably outside the scope of this discussion, but the ATO aren't taking action on insolvencies. The banks don't seem to be taking action yet.
No.
So it's up to private individuals basically to engage lawyers to take action, which can be cost prohibitive. So I think it's going to be, we will see some insolvencies coming. So probably another topic for another podcast, how to protect yourself from the inevitable insolvencies. But terms and conditions with your clients and subcontractors would be definitely some ways to cement those relationships legally.
100%.
Yeah. And on the trust thing as well, so I kind of carved out as a fourth mistake we see. So obviously, that last mistake we talked about was trusting the people who work for you. What about the people who work with you? So I'm talking here about, you've started a business with a friend or a family member. We do see lots of family members, particularly in trade businesses. They do tend to be family owned. So you've got, the husband and wife's running the show, husband's on the tools, that kind of thing, or brothers and sisters, cousins. So again, probably more reason to have a legal agreement. Because if you're arguing, you can actually pull it out of a bottom drawer and go, well, look, let's see what the lawyer said when the lawyer drew up this, and what did we agree when we were all friends? Let's have a look at that. It really is a rule book for your business. So if you've got a company structure and you've got, a couple of directors, a couple of shareholders, you absolutely should have in place a document called a shareholders agreement. And that sets out the rules of how you're going to manage that company and how you're going to deal with any issues when they arise. People often call me saying they need a partnership agreement. That's relevant if you're in a partnership, but the relevant terminology is a shareholders agreement for company structures. And we see a lot of company directors and shareholders who are embroiled in costly litigation and disputes. The lawyers who'll be helping them will be driving much bigger, much shinier cars than we are. They'll have a lot more money in their trust account and they'll be charging a lot more per hour. So again, it comes down to which side do you want to address this at? Do you want to address it at the happy side where it's much more lean and mean, or do you want to address it at the costly side where you're basically
work in the preventative space?
Yes, exactly. And litigators would hate to hear me saying things like this, because a well-drafted shareholders agreement could probably mean that you don't end up ever needing them, and therefore they might have to, give up one of their Porsches. I don't know.
That's terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Evil, aren't I? So, the shareholders agreement, we would cover things like really simple things that you wouldn't think would need to be covered. But what about what happens if one of you wants to transfer your shares? You don't want them to just be able to go and transfer them and sell them to anybody, because this is a family business. You don't want anybody involved. So you'd want the right to be able to buy them back off them. You'd also want to make sure that, reasonable value. But really important, again, is restrictions on competition, so that, that person doesn't transfer their shares and then go off and start a competing company and phone the clients, take the employees, and basically leave you with nothing after you've just paid them some money. And the worst possible clause I could ever put in for a litigator is a dispute resolution clause. And this basically says, do not go and pay a litigator. Do not go to court until you've exhausted all other possible avenues, which are cost effective and much nicer and quicker. So all of those things should go in. So there should be a business agreement in place between you and the business owners.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's a big one that leaves people open. And the final one, number 5, we do see people who have completely the wrong structure. So, I can see from, we've got a camera on between us, so I can see Kate's reaction was that she completely agrees with me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And this is the thing, structure, again, we leave too much to chance and handshake agreements and, what's the best way, whether it's accountants, solicitors, or lawyers, whomever, people just need to get the advice. They just got to get the advice. Yeah,
definitely. And again, it's all about, how much, what end do you want to spend the money at? I would spend a bit of money setting yourself up properly, because it's more costly to try and do it later when you've got goodwill and assets and all sorts of things in the business. So we do tend to find that most tradies who set up will use a sole trader structure, which is relatively cheap and easy to get going. You can get started quite quickly, grab yourself an ABN. But as the business grows, it's crucial that business structure evolves with it. So if you have a company, and we refer to proprietary limited companies, that's the most common sort of privately owned company, that actually keeps your personal property separate from the business because it's a separate legal entity. Whereas when you're a sole trader, the way I describe it is you basically take all your assets with you on every job. So you're sort of picking up your house, you're picking up your cars and, you know, all your shares and investments, and you're basically plonking them down in front of the client going, there's your collateral if I do something wrong.
Yeah. What would you like to
really
take visual
first? Way.
Yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, as a sole trader, you're personally liable for all business debts and your personal assets are at risk, whereas as a company, it's a separate legal entity. So unless you've been asked to stand out from behind the company and give personal guarantees and things, then it's a really good way to limit your personal liability. But as always, yeah, seek legal advice and seek financial advice. That's one of the times when the lawyer and the accountant really do need to be on the same team when we're talking about structuring. If anyone wants any more information, again, an article on our website about, I think it's called Should I Start as a Company or a Sole Trader? And that's relevant to wherever you are in your business journey.
Absolutely. And you know, knowing the right times to go from one to the other and the rationale behind going from one to the other. And there's discussions that need to be had on both sides of the fence, because from a taxation perspective, rightio, yes, it could be about dollars and cents, but from a legal perspective, it's about protecting assets and, you know, how much tax do I not want to pay versus how much do I want to not hand over if something does go wrong and somebody does decide that they're going to come after me from a legal perspective. So, and that's a big one that we see often, and we ask the questions. And, you know, from a coaching perspective, we tend to be looking at, well, what sort of income is the business generating, what number of people, etc. And we're like, hang on, are you still sole trading? Oh my God, we need to sort this out. You know, when we first meet people. So whereas, you know, you would see a lot more than we do the dark side to not protecting your assets through a company or a PTY LTD structure. So
yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. And do you not think it just looks better as well from a client perspective? Would you rather engage somebody and trust them and put money in their trust account, in their account as a deposit, and you know, do this really important work on your big capital asset, your house, who is, you know, Bob Smith ABN 123, or would you rather deal with Smith Constructions PTY Ltd and proper setup, proper company, you know, proper website, proper contracts, terms and conditions, you know, and it all looks and smells like a professional outfit.
Yeah, 100%. And I think though that's where we've got to really think more like a corporate or professional services organisation in the tradie business land. And, you know, the boys in particular, they cringe when I say we need a more corporate structure in your business, and they go, what are you freaking talking about? This stuff that Helen is talking about right now, guys, that is what I mean. Because without it all, business is moving in a direction now that you can't afford not to do these things full stop. You can't just have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I'll chuck a bit of a term on the bottom of my invoice or a little bit of some kind of get the staff member to sign some random piece of paper that we've just made up. Just doesn't work like that anymore, and people are at risk out there every day, and that's why we're very lucky to have services like yours, Helen.
Oh, thank you. No, I love it. And what I love to hear is when people contact me, you know, we give an initial free call. When they contact me, they'll say things like, you know, the terminology be, I'm feeling anxious, I'm nervous, I'm worried. And then by the time we've explained it and helped them put these things in place, they say, I'm feeling more confident, I'm less anxious, you know, I'm really happy, really confident that I've sorted all these things out, because they can really feel that, you know, the weight's been lifted. And, you know, whilst you go and get business insurance, your business contracts sit right next to that. Absolutely. Because where there's a gap in your contract, you might look for insurance and vice versa. And together, those two things should help you go to work, do your job, get paid for it, come home. And if anything arises, we snip the little clause in their terms and conditions and say, oh, you're fine. Just email them this clause and tell them that, you know, this was what you had agreed. And that can be really great. You've seen in the groups, and we got some great feedback about, you know, engage Rise Legal and we use their terms and conditions and they helped us do this.
That's
Fantastic work, just think brilliant. So one of the things we do, because obviously, I've run through the 5 things, the 5 mistakes that business owners make and what they can do to protect themselves. So, number 1, protect their intellectual property with a trademark. Number 2, have a contract in place with their clients, so their terms and conditions. Number 3, have that subcontractor agreement in place with all subbies. Number 4 is have a shareholder agreement essentially in place with your business partners. And number 5, really get advice on that better business structure. So those are the 5 things. Now, those 5 things, Kate, form part of a special service that we offer, which is our unique one-on-one legal audit. Mm-hmm. So if people want to, have a free chat with me, but it may be that the next step would be for us to take a deep dive into your business and assess the risks that you've got. I'm not expecting anyone to know from this podcast, oh, I need this and this. It'd be more a case of, I'm not 100% sure that I've just ticked all those boxes that Helen and Kate were talking about. So I really do think I want to have a chat with a lawyer. And if that leads on to us having a one-on-one legal audit and identifying those risks and having a plan, it could be a 12-month plan, 24-month plan, whatever budget allows, then so be it.
Wonderful. And I think I'm glad you said that, Helen, because people can feel overwhelmed by the concept of investing in legal advice. But that's one thing, and what attracts us at Ladies with Tradies to Rise Legal is that it is paced and prioritised alongside you from both a financial and legal priority. Like, what's the priority? What's the number one thing? Let's work on that. Then let's work on this, and then let's work on the next thing. So, obviously the ideal is to get it all done in one fell swoop, but a tailored relationship is certainly available as well. And again, the reason why we pair with you guys. So really grateful for that offer and that opportunity, Helen. I will have a link at the bottom of the podcast, and Helen's also on our website under Trusted Advisors. So if you ever want to go that direction too, you can find her on our website there as well. And also a link to the intro call that's for Ladies with Tradies as well. So thank you so much, Helen. That has been absolutely delightful, as always, very informative, lots of information for people to go away and not think too long on rather than acting upon. We'd like that to see that much more than people just thinking about doing this stuff, because at the end of the day, I guess the alliance where we align as businesses is that we just want to make sure that tradie business owners are getting the most out of their business in the safest way possible. So thanks very much for your expertise, your support, and all of your amazing tips.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and thank you for having me on. It's always great to partner with people who've got similar values and really do care about the same things we care about, which is protecting our clients.
Beautiful. Thanks, Helen. We'll talk soon. Cheers. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.